First two of 6 games. Greece are also in the group. We're talking well over 7,000 tickets sold for the game tomorrow. And I guess we go again. The Carla Ward era begins.
Arasharish, we go again. Yeah, it does feel a bit like a new dawn, if you like. And probably I think if the way that the whole Wales game and not qualifying panned out, you almost needed this kind of fresh start to maybe get the players to feel, right, we go again, new page, new focus, pick ourselves up, and almost makes it maybe a bit easier to just put that behind you.
We should say again, I think people are generally au fait now with the rhythms of Group A and or A and B. This is a gentle start to life for Carla Ward. Ireland are comfortably the highest ranked of the 4 sides in the group. They're 24th, give or take. Slovenia are 40th, Turkey are 58th, and Greece are 61st. And as we saw the last time Ireland were in Group B, where they scored 20 goals and conceded 2 with Northern Ireland, Hungary and Albania. I'm not saying me or you could manage them, Rachel, but me or you could manage them through this one.
Yeah, and I think, look, they've had the experience of the expectation now, of the expectation of being in a group, of not being the underdog, of being expected to go into that group and win every game. That's what we expect of them. And with that, I guess for Carla Ward, there is a little bit of pressure because, yes, it's a nice way, I guess, to dip your toe now into international management and not kind of come in and face, a top 10 ranked team. But at the same time, there is that expectation on her, on the players, that they will do well in this group and that they will get out of League B. But I also think to myself, if things didn't go the way we planned or if things didn't work out, we have time, which is also quite a nice cushion as well. So I just feel like going into this new era, I think, yeah, they can be comfortable, they can be confident, but, I don't feel like it's necessarily boom or bust, if you know what I mean. I know, like, we expect them to win and we want them to win and everything else, but 2027's a while away yet, so I'm quite confident for now.
So for Ward herself, I was thinking this morning that on her unveiling, that press conference, and we spoke to you straight after it with Aidan Fitzmaurice, that was completely overtaken by the Colin Healy statement that morning. And now she's right back into the country and Stephen Bradley has reignited the Colin Healy situation. It hasn't really been talked about in the interim. I would say Carla Ward's like having her breakfast looking at the papers this morning going, oh my God, this Colin Healy thing is the biggest story in this country non-stop.
Yeah, and I guess maybe it takes the weight off her, the pressure off her a bit. She can just fly under the radar and go about her business and, sit in another press conference, maybe that she won't get so many questions, which is a shame because I think I'd like to hear more from her. But yeah, it's annoying, isn't it? Like you've had time to try and correct this and deal with it and manage it. And it's almost like we'll close the door on that until the next international window comes up and it'll rear its head again. And it's just a bit like, for God's sake, like,
yeah.
Can we get a handle on it? But so yeah, that's a bit frustrating, to be honest.
Does she have a set style of play? Like Ruben Amorim, as we now know, has a style. He will never change no matter what. He's going down with this sinking ship. Carla Ward, what can we expect from Ireland over the next 2 matches?
She'll want to be defensively strong, but she wants the team to play possession football. I know that's something that's been talked about. Like, having someone like an Alan Mahon come in who's been at City, who plays that kind of possession-based football. They don't want to be banking up. Like, I don't think they want to be seen as this super defensive squad that, doesn't get forward that much. They can be pretty precise and effective in transition as well, which I like. But at the same time, I think she can be adaptable. And I don't think she's so wedded to a style that she will put style over results. I think she's willing to change things if she needs to. I know, like, when Alan Mahon spoke, I think it was yesterday, about City coming up against Villa and how Aston Villa always caused them problems because she had worked out the best way to play City with the squad she had. So that's what I liked about Ward, is that, yes, she has a style as such, but she's willing to tweak and change things if the game requires it.
Yeah. It's such an interesting area with this team, possession and the type of football that they aspire to play, because at the end of the Vera Pauw era, certainly one of the complaints that seemed to be leaking through was that the team wanted to almost be let off the leash and play a more attacking brand of football. And so fast forward to the end point of Eileen Gleeson, and Ruisha Littlejohn is giving an interview on television saying, look, the next generation of footballers that we bring through, they just have to be able to keep the ball better than we can. that's, Irish football needs to have a big conversation about our technical levels. And everybody nodded and agreed. And that's fine in the medium to long term. But in the short term, the team have their technical levels. I think there is a significant question mark. In fact, I go stronger than that. I don't even think it is a question mark. I don't see this team being able to play possession football under much pressure from the opposition. They make too many mistakes on the ball.
Yeah, but I guess the opportunity to try and implement that style, like we're not going to immediately jump to that, right? It's a journey, it's a goal, it's a long-term goal, and it requires progress throughout the age groups. It requires a style throughout the age groups. It requires, players playing more football professionally at a higher level to get used to that level of pressure, to improve technically. I think, yes, when we look back at maybe how Ireland played under Powell versus how they played under Gleeson, I think there was progress, and there were times where we did play nice football, looked in control, and I think the pressure has spread across the group more than just on a couple of players. And these things take time. And I think when you're qualifying for major tournaments and the expectation rises, people are like, right, well, we need to be better. Now we need to be really good in possession. Now, and though that just doesn't happen overnight, especially international football. You've got how many windows a year? How often does the coach see you in that period? So it's a journey, it's a process. And I know we talk about Carla Ward will want to play more possession-based football, but that's not like day one. We're going to be Barcelona playing triangles around people. That's the long-term goal. And I think it's important that everyone knows that that's the long-term goal, because that's when you start to make those small bits of progress, and you take that away with you when you go into your club football or wherever you might go. Yeah,
she doesn't have the players to play that type of football. Now, that's not to say Ireland can't be brilliantly attacking, and you can get more bodies forward and you can play at a certain tempo. And that's where you can see Ireland being really dangerous. But I can't see Ireland knitting together 10 triangles for 3 minutes of possession against superior opposition especially.
Sure, but I also think then if you're adaptable enough to be really disciplined out of possession, that can be just as effective. And we've seen teams take on a Spain, and if you know you're going to be out of possession and you know you're not going to have a lot of the ball, it's being disciplined and knowing what your role is and sticking to that for 90 minutes. And that's really hard. And actually, if you can have a team that's really comfortable out of possession, when you're playing up against superior opposition, you at least have that adaptability to say, okay, maybe we do sit back and absorb some pressure, but when we do get that possession, we're much more effective with it.
Yeah. And Ireland have been a pretty good team out of possession generally.
Yeah, exactly. And, that's something they'll want to work on and improve. I think sometimes it's the clinicalness when you do get those opportunities that maybe needs to improve a little bit, or, transitioning quickly. And I think, again, that's something we'll have seen from some Carla Ward teams, is that they are good on that transition, on that quick transition. And it's, for me, it's all that fine tuning bits, and it's making those slow progress, those steps each time you have a window.
I guess to kind of copper fasten the sense of a new era, there is change. Some familiar faces are gone. Niamh Fahey, Diane Caldwell. Julianne Russell is a blow. That was the one. Oh, Julianne, you're just back. It's going so well. There's surely another 2 years here. That's the one with all, and I mean like due respect to Niamh Fahey and Diane Caldwell, the Julianne Russell one is the stinger.
Unexpected. And, gutting as well, because I think for a while we've needed that really kind of clinical outlet. That, I mean, I do think Akira Caruso is a bit of an energizer bunny in that she doesn't stop running, but so does Julianne, and to be able to have those options as opposed to just relying on one person, and she was clinical. She, like, when she got a sniff a goal, you could almost put your house on her at least getting it on target. So that's a blow, because that's a big gap that we need to fill, and I think as well just the fact that we didn't expect it.
Yeah, I mean, we had just filled it with Julianne Russell, and now we have Julianne Russell gap, because she seemed to be like thriving and loving life, and again, unexpected. I guess demands of life and everything else have conspired here, so that's tricky. And then injuries to Louise Quinn, Tara O'Hanlon, Lily Agg, Jamie Finn, and Jess Sue. I think Leanne Kiernan as well, I saw this morning, is out. So it'll be, there'll be changes to the lineup. One player drafted in is a midfielder in Melissa Phillis from Charlton. She qualifies through her Mayo-born mother. She's been called up for the first time, has received clearance from FIFA. Where do you see her pitching in the pecking order, Rachel?
I mean, I'd be surprised if she started. I think they're going to, even if we saw her in this camp, it could depend on how the rest of the squad pans out, I suppose. But I think it'll be about getting her in, getting her used to the setup, used to the surroundings, start to develop those relationships with other players on the team. So, I think maybe further down the Nations League road we might see her. I'd be surprised. Maybe we will. Maybe Carla will surprise us all. But yeah, she reminds me a little bit of a Ruth Littlejohn in that kind of powerful, physical player, strong, technical. She flies under the radar a little bit, I think, on the pitch. So a good addition, a good solid addition.
I hate to revolve a question around two players who often have questions revolved around them, but I guess with Ireland, it's kind of significant. Where do you see Denise O'Sullivan and Katie McCabe playing under Carla Ward?
I'd like to say Katie further up the pitch. I think, I guess it depends as well. If you're playing against a team where you feel like you're going to have more possession, you could be more attacking. You can kind of let them off the reins a little bit and have Denise further up and Katie further up. And I feel like we might see that within this group at least. Because yeah, as much as they want to be solid at the back, I know that they'll want to at least show that they're playing some more attacking style football and banging in some goals.
The problem with Denise is that you play her like more as a six, and you think, oh, brilliant there. If only she had Denise to pass to further up the pitch.
Yes.
And when you play Denise further up the pitch, you think, well, if only there was Denise behind her to get her into the game and feed the ball to her. Like it's that kind of catch-22 with her.
Yeah, it's one of those players who just reads the game better than everybody else. And that's often what you lack then, because as you say, put them in one place, you need someone reading where she's going and vice versa. And I guess that just shows her quality, doesn't it?
Katie McCabe's an interesting spot in her career. She's now 29 years of age. We're all getting old when Katie's 29. It feels like she's been around for a long time, which she has. So against Chelsea, there was that very high profile sending off where about 3-4 feet from the referee, she told the referee where to go in fairly no uncertain terms, and was promptly sent off. And I thought against Wales, we talked about it here in the podcast the day afterwards, against Wales on an evening for experience and a cool head, she probably got involved almost in her own personal drama and was very pumped up, and certainly the relationship with the referee descended rapidly and probably went against Ireland. So it wasn't a good night for her, was the general opinion. She kind of this is it now. You know, you're a leader. You're 29. Is she generally away from the Wales game and the Chelsea sending off? How has life been for her at Arsenal?
Tell you what, she's had a pretty good season in terms of not getting booked that often,
right.
Actually. And, I find it a bit frustrating because you do have this narrative that she's overly aggressive, she's always getting booked, and people call her Katie McCard and all this kind of stuff. I think that was maybe the first time she's been sent off the WSL, I think. So you kind of, it's a bit frustrating because actually, having not been sent off, she plays on the edge, and that's, I think, what a lot of people like about her in her football.
Yeah.
It's the stuff off the ball that you're like, right, there's a point where you're meant to get to a point where you're like, actually, this isn't helpful, is it? I need to rein this in. And I think maybe we feel like we're still waiting for that at times with Katie. And I guess with the captaincy, you would maybe expect that to come a bit quicker. I think what she brings, though, to the table is almost, it's worth taking her, despite her maybe still struggling to manage that emotion sometimes because of what she brings.
Yeah.
The Wales game, the Wales game was frustrating. We were all a bit frustrated, and maybe you got to look at it and say, this is like maybe the first time in her career where she was captaining her side in a massive game that they were expected to win. And suddenly that expectation maybe was almost too much for her, because we needed the Katie of the first half in the second half, and she couldn't because she was almost muzzled with the arguments and the close line she'd run with the ref, and you just knew she couldn't let loose now because she was on her final warning. So it just muzzled her a little bit, and I think that's what frustrated people, is that you expect the most from your captain. So with the Chelsea one, actually, not that I defended her, but I can actually understand why she lost her head a little bit in that situation. It was quite, in terms of how it unfolded, and they didn't think it was a penalty, and the timing of the game, where it was in the game, you knew if who was stepping up, they were going to score it. You've very little time to get back into it. And it's, I can understand that, rush of blood to the head. Yeah. But with the referee in the middle, you knew that she would most likely, of any referee, be the one to make that decision. So silly, frustrating, left the team without, down to 10. But I actually think in terms of her discipline this year, she has actually been better at Arsenal.
Okay.
So I'm going to give her that credit.
Good point to make. And away from discipline, her general form playing-wise?
Yeah, I think she's been good. I remember she had that season, that unbelievable season, I think just before the Euros. Maybe hasn't quite reached those heights again, but I think it's difficult for a player to have an unbelievable season and back it up with another unbelievable season. I think she's improved on last season, and a key member of that squad still, very important member of that Arsenal squad.
Yeah. Another player we should just mention is Ruisha Littlejohn. So she's on 85 caps. She's, I think, 34 now, and she has tendonitis in her Achilles, which has to be managed. So there are a lot of reasons to say there, you should just retire from international football and get another couple of nice years at club level. But Ward is very, very keen to keep her on. She said, Ruisha's not considering retirement. She probably did question it, but I said, don't you dare. I still think she has loads to offer. They obviously worked together previously.
Yes, and I think Carla probably had a hand in Russia deciding to keep going. I mean, you look at those Wales games and you see what she can still bring, and I think she's spoken about what the type of player she is in terms of managing her fitness. She knows herself very well. It's something that she's had to deal with for a while in her career, and I think maybe something that didn't seem to pan out for her in her most recent club. So, I think she spoke about being criticised for playing those games against Wales. And you're like, these are some of the biggest games in a player's career. Of course she's going to play. And she was a huge part in that game. So it's almost like she has that credit in the bank with Ireland because she's proven she can still perform. Carla knows her. Carla knows she needs managing. And I think if you manage Russia right, you've got a diamond on the pitch. And I think you have that kind of level of, well, look, as we said, we touched on, some leaders have left. That's another leader maybe you don't want to lose, both off the pitch and on the pitch. If you know what you can get out of her for 60 minutes, you utilise her to the best of your abilities to get the best out of her. And I think she can still provide that. So having a manager that knows how to manage her is key.
Yeah.
So I'm glad she's sticking around for a little bit longer. I just think that would be almost one too many to lose in one blow.
Yeah. So I guess kind of final thoughts. This is an interesting year ahead. Suddenly, you've got the flexibility, I suppose, of going up against opposition that you should beat. Really, you've lost a bunch of players. You've a new manager. There's a new cohort to bring through. What do we want to be saying in about 12 months' time about this bunch?
That they've done well, winning every game again in League B and moving into League A, and progressing potentially then as they play up against better sides in League A. That would be the goal. I think seeing players stepping into those leadership roles, and I do think the squad has definitely developed more leaders across the pitch. I was speaking to Aoife Mannion there this week, and that's something she touched on, that everyone feels comfortable and confident to be able to speak, and how there's quite a few leaders and how players are kind of allowed to grow in that role within the squad. So I'd like to see more of that. I guess minutes for youngsters. I'm intrigued with this kind of almost like B group that they've brought up, and giving them opportunities to play against the under-19s. Will that kind of help to bridge the gap a little bit? Might we see a few new faces? That kind of thing. But yeah, it's almost like a reset going, okay, we go again. It's another process. And actually, I guess the new management makes it feel that little bit more exciting, as if it's a new start again.
Yeah. Enjoy the game tomorrow. Thank you
Thank you
so much, Rachel O'Sullivan from Girls on the Ball. Appreciate it. Thanks, Rachel.
Cheers. Thank you.